What if an AI could tackle a really complex topic with all the nuance and creativity of a human expert? Well, today, we're going to dive into a new AI called WebWeaver that's actually learning to do just that.
So let's kick things off with a challenge that might sound simple, but is actually a massive headache for AI today. Imagine you ask an AI to go read 100 different web pages on a topic, and then come back and write a single, insightful report that pulls it all together. The reality? Well, for most AI, that task is basically a recipe for disaster. They get completely overwhelmed, they lose the plot, and they could even start just making stuff up, what we in the field call hallucinating. But there's a new, groundbreaking method called WebWeaver, and it is starting to crack this problem. And the secret here isn't just more raw processing power. It's about teaching the AI to ditch that rigid, machine-like thinking and adopt a strategy that's, well, a lot more human. So to really get this, we first have to understand the sheer scale of the challenge we're talking about. This is what's known as open-ended deep research. Yeah, OEDR. See, this isn't about just finding a quick answer on Google. It's about tackling a complex, open-ended question where there's no single right answer. It requires the AI to form its own unique insights from this huge sea of information. Think of it less like a search query and way more like writing a PhD-level thesis completely from scratch. All right, so why do most AIs completely bomb this test? The problem isn't the data. It's the two really flawed ways they try to process it. The folks behind WebWeaver put it perfectly in their paper. Current methods are just way too rigid. They try to plan out the entire research project before they've even seen the evidence, which, is the exact opposite of how good research actually works. And this really boils down to two main failed strategies. On one side, you've got the brain dump. This is where the AI just inhales tons of data and kind of hopes for the best. It's like cramming for a final exam, and you just end up with a jumbled, incoherent mess. On the other side, you've got the fossilized plan, where a super rigid outline is made right at the start. The big problem there? It can't adapt when it stumbles onto some unexpected, totally game-changing piece of information. And this, of course, brings us to the human-inspired solution, WebWeaver. Here's the fundamental shift, the big idea. WebWeaver completely throws out those rigid, machine-like processes. Instead, it's designed from the ground up to copy the flexible, adaptive, almost organic way a human expert actually does research. I mean, think about it. When you or I do research, we don't carve a plan in stone before we start. Our outline is a living, breathing document that changes as we learn new things. And when we sit down to write, we don't try to hold 100 sources in our head at once. We just focus on the notes for the one section we're working on right now. So how does WebWeaver actually pull this off? Well, it uses this really clever division of labor, a planner-writer duo. Let's break down how this team works. First up is the planner, and you should really think of it as the curious explorer. Its job isn't to create a fixed map from the get-go, but to continuously explore the information landscape and actually draw the map as it goes. And this is its secret sauce right here, this dynamic loop. It searches, it finds evidence, and this part is absolutely key. It uses those new discoveries to refine and improve its own outline. Then it does it all over again, going through this cycle more than twice on average, getting smarter and more focused each time. Okay, so once the planner has built this really comprehensive, source-grounded outline, it tags in its partner, the writer. The writer is the focused author, and its job is to turn that detailed outline into a polished, well-written report. And its process is just brilliant in its focus. It tackles the report one section at a time, it pulls up only the specific evidence needed for that one section, writes it, cites it, and then, get this, it forgets that evidence to clear its workspace for the next task. This divide and conquer strategy is exactly how it avoids that information overload and those nasty hallucinations that plague other systems. So this all sounds fantastic in theory, right? But does this human-inspired approach actually work in the real world? Let's look at the proof, because it's right there in the report. Well, the results pretty much speak for themselves. On something called the Deep Research Bench, which is basically a PhD-level exam for AIs, WebWeaver actually edges out its top competitors and sets a new state-of-the-art score. And it's not just for academic stuff. When they tested it on the kind of complex questions you'd see in business and consulting, it again comes out ahead, winning more often than any other agent out there. But honestly, this number right here might be the most important one of all. Over 93% citation accuracy? That is a huge deal because it means WebWeaver is incredibly reliable. It almost never just invents its sources, a massive, massive problem that has plagued AI-generated reports until now. Look, the success of WebWeaver isn't just about one cool new tool. It really points to the entire future of AI research and why this whole weaving concept matters so much. Because this is the ultimate lesson here. The path to smarter AI isn't just about building bigger and bigger models and trying to force them to pay attention to everything all at once. It's about teaching them to be strategic, to master knowledge through deliberate, focused, step-by-step actions, just like a human would. So when you boil it all down, the takeaways here are pretty powerful. We've learned that adaptive planning always beats a rigid one. That focused, section-by-section writing is the key to preventing confusion and errors. And maybe most exciting of all, these complex, expert skills can actually be broken down and taught even to smaller, more accessible AI models. And all of this leads to one final provocative question. By mastering one of the absolute cornerstones of human intellect, deep research, AI is crossing a really significant threshold. So it leaves us all to wonder, what other complex forms of human knowledge work will be the next to be woven into the fabric of artificial intelligence?